How is it going, everyone? This is Andrew, and today I want to show you a new project that I decided to start. This is a CL500 Mercedes Benz of 2003. It was, before I took it, it was at the Dismantler. It was about to go get crushed into metal, but I decided to give it a try and try to restore this car back to its former glory. Well, there are a lot of issues with this car, particularly with the drive shaft, and after that, a couple issues with the engine, electricals, and a lot of cosmetic issues which I have to address within the next few weeks. But I think that's an exciting new project. I hope you will have fun with me completing this project, and let's learn a few things together by finishing this car. This is my new Mercedes CL500. It's a 2002 year model. When new, this car would set you back around $40,000, but this one I bought it for just $1,200. This car comes with a full AMG body kit, which would cost around $4,000 to $5,000 back then, and this one has also 19-inch wheels. Before I made this video, I went on and disassembled most of the interior of the car in order to check for any damage and inspect all of the components and plastics that are not otherwise accessible. The first problem that I addressed was the driver's side electronics, which were completely disabled due to a ground wire that was snapped inside the driver's door protective tube. So once I resoldered the wire, everything came back to life. All these models have this problem, particularly in the doors, because they extend outwards and they have this kind of protective tube for the cables. Other things inside that I want to do is of course remove all the carpets, clean everything. The seats are throwing some kind of codes on the dashboard, which I have to address later. There is probably a switch that does not recognize the seat when it goes back into its original position. Also back here, we're looking at a fuel tank that has been patched, and I don't know the reason that this happened, but I have to check everything else later. So that's most of it. A lot of the plastics in the center console do have a lot of damage. I might be able to salvage some of them and fix them. If I cannot fix something, I will obviously replace it, but I am trying to keep costs down, because if you go to the dealer and if you go online and start buying parts, it will quickly increase the cost of fixing this car. To give you an update on my CL500, I finished by taking off the front bumper, which was cracked at the bottom. If you see here, there was a big crack. It's supposed to have a big plastic part. This part is missing. Also, this fog light is broken. There is support here that's broken, but the good news is that the Partronic system is working and the spray nozzles are working. I'm gonna take all those parts from this old bumper and I'm gonna put them in the new one that's arriving very soon. But other than that, I also took the headlights off so I can have more space on the engine and work better on it. And the headlights are very easy. They're basically two bolts, one here and one here. You just take these off with an 8mm socket, and then they just come off. Okay, so right now we're under the car, and let's go a little further. I removed some screws from the flex disc, which is gonna come off, but eventually what needs to be done here is the whole drive shaft has to come off. So here it is. This is duct tape between the drive shaft and the drive shaft mount. So that seems this mount is destroyed. That's why, let me put this here. this is the flex that the drive shaft is having right now. It's not supposed to do this. That's why it was hitting and it punctured. Not only punctured that cover, it also, there's also some damage to the chassis. It's not that severe, but still, it seems that this car has been driven or had high revs when all of this happened. Once we go further onto the drive shaft, we can see there is another mount that this one was taking more care of with a towel and duct tape. And if we go further, we'll see, let me try and do that. If we go further, we'll see that the front flex disc also has some cuts and eventually needs to be replaced. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna take the rear flex disc off and slide the drive shaft, the whole thing. I'm gonna slide it out after I remove the front part of the exhaust, because everything here needs to be replaced, including the brackets, the mounts, and both of the flex disc, in order for this vehicle to be operational again. So I removed the exhaust, and then I removed the middle axle and a drive shaft, which is right in front of me. I'm gonna show you which are the problems and which parts are needed. The previous owner has obviously straight pipe the last part. This is not even a problem because it was very easy to take off. And now we come here to the drive shaft. All the parts of the flex disc were stuck on the rear diff. And you can still see that the metal parts of the flex discs are still stuck on the drive shaft, which I have to hammer them carefully off so that I don't mess up with the alignment. You can see here that there are marks from the screws that have been here that were hitting against the drive shaft. It's worth noting how the bad flex disc can look like at this point. This is the new flex disc, how it looks like. It's solid, it's rubber. You see it's not even showing any signs of wear. This is my rear flex disc. All of the metal parts that go through the linen and the nylon were stuck onto the drive shaft, the rear differential. I had to hammer them down, and this is how one part that I had to hammer off looks like. And this is the front flex disc, which is the same thing but still has too many cracks. It's gonna break very soon. I'll have to replace that one as well. It's cheap parts, but it's too much labor. That's why if you were to take this car into a shop, you'd have to pay probably about $1,000 for this kind of replacement. Okay, so this dashboard is basically like a Christmas tree. So I'm gonna check everything with the computer. I'm gonna go ahead and scan the codes and see what's wrong with the car. It's gonna take some time, so I'm gonna start the diagnostics and I'm gonna show you after it's finished. So it's basically done reading the modules of the vehicle. It's reading individual modules, and then you can go ahead and select each of them and see where the fault codes are and even delete them. We're gonna go to electronic ignition switch. So let's read the fault codes. There is a voltage supply under voltage here. Let's say we gonna go ahead and with the same fashion we're gonna clear everything, because I've disconnected so many things in this car that in the process it might think that something is faulty. But in order, when everything is reconnected, in order to read everything again, it's better if you just delete everything, let the car run, or even drive the car and see what other codes are gonna show up. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna delete all the codes, then I'm gonna start the car and see what codes are going to show up One of the problems I had with this car once I connected it to the OBD2 was that it was showing on the computer that there was an issue with the injector at cylinder 6. So what I decided to do is, since this car has never been probably serviced for the last 100,000 miles, I decided to change all of the injectors in the engine. I'm gonna change all of the spark plugs. So I'm gonna show you what I've taken out of the engine. I've already ordered the parts and I'm waiting to put them back. I stripped out the injectors from the engine. There is a fuel rail that runs along this part of the intake. This is just a plastic for the cables that plug into the injectors. So here is a fuel rail that I removed from top of the engine. These are the injectors. So sometimes these can go bad. This can fail after lots of miles. And I've ordered new ones so I can replace it on the fuel rail, and then the fuel rail will go back into the engine. So here they are. Some of the parts finally arrived for the CL500, including a driveshaft boot, which is a plastic cover that goes to the driveshaft. The middle mount, the metal middle mount that was missing, this is a part from middle. And we do have the bearing for the driveshaft, which comes from a infamous brand that's called FAG. So this is the bearing for the drive shaft, and we also got, just today I received the new injectors, which turn out to be just refurbished injectors. So that means they have been cleaned up and they have been fitted with new O-rings at the front and the back. And as I can see here, they have been tested and they are ready to go. So unfortunately my gimbal died, so I can show you the exact procedure in time lapse. But anyways, you just push the injectors into the fuel rail. It needs some good push. The O-rings on the bottom, they're gonna secure their place inside the fuel rail. That means they should be tight but loose at the same time, because there's actually just a small rubber that goes between the fuel rail and the injector. So once you put them inside in their place, just give them a small twist. Give them all a twist and make sure they're sitting properly. After that, depending on the car you're fixing, this car has some clips that they secure, that they go here. So that's how you install fuel injectors on a fuel rail. So now basically everything is in there. It's a good time when you have this off to inspect for a leak on the top, on the head gasket. So now the injectors and the fuel rail is in. They're all connected with all the connectors are back. Just the plastics are messy. I don't care about that because we still have a lot of things to do on the engine. And the next step is replace the fuel filter, fuel pump, and then try to crank it up. Thanks for watching everyone. If you like this video, please make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe, as it will help me a lot. Let me know your thoughts about this project down in the comments, and I will make sure to read everything. Thanks again for being here, and I will see you in the next video.